You're listening to Cold Press Conversations with Dr. Jewel White Williams, a lover of numbers, lists, and a good glass of cold pressed juice, who is sharing episodes each week to help you explore the back end of healthcare and health sciences. Where a lot of that grit is done, we'll dive into topics covering research, education, and clinical practices, as well as guest shows with other leaders in the field. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these amazing and game-changing conversations. When we set boundaries, reclaim our time, and leverage various strategies in our day as educators or anyone with an occupation, that's where you create sustainable careers. Or do you? That's the question. Welcome to today's episode of The Art of Occupational Wellness. That's what we're going to talk about. Occupational wellness. We're going to explore how occupational wellness is a foundation for long-term success in leadership. Now, we have entrepreneurs, we have people who work in the actual school setting. And when I mean entrepreneurs, I'm talking about the educational consultants. I'm also discussing the educators, those who are teachers, principals, higher education. And when you're in those types of settings, whether you are online, meaning virtually teaching, because we have our micro schools as well, we have our online schools. No matter where you are, you need to create a work-life harmony in order for you to prevent any kind of burnout. So if you have ever felt like your leadership role, and yes, when you are a teacher, you are in a leadership role. You have 30 kids or 35 kids right in front of you, okay? And you are tending to run around a little too much sometimes because we have lesson plans, or you're trying to create a quiz or make the last copy or finish the PowerPoint. We need to find a way that we have occupational wellness. And I'm not just speaking to you, I'm speaking to myself as well, because it matters. It allows us to protect our energy. It allows us to protect our mental health. It allows us to protect our physical health. And that is how we can excel as an educator, point blank. So knowing that burnout is extremely real, it affects educators at alarming rates. There are several studies out there that show that prolonged stress reduces cognitive function and decision-making abilities. Now, that's not something we need to have as educators. Cognitive function, y'all, if you know me and you're a part of my newsletter, I end it with, to your health and cognitive happiness. I want you to have cognitive happiness. I'm not talking about just being super jovial. I'm talking about allowing your brain to feel the love, to feel the enjoyment, to feel the life that it can, as opposed to having it so impact with so many things that you need to do. All right, y'all. Matter of fact, when we think of things, do you think I would have an opportunity to say no to anyone? I don't like saying no, but burnout is real and I don't want to overwhelm myself. So if I'm going to tell you about wellness, I've got to live it as well. I found this study, I believe it was by Dolkos. It's from 2018. Here we go. Hopefully I'm just going to do a quick summary of what it was. They found that constant overwork weakens your neural pathways, which are responsible for focus and emotional regulation. Okay, that was a lot of mouth. That's a lot. That was a whole lot. All right, so if you overwork yourself, it weakens your neural pathways. Those neural pathways are responsible, those neurons, all of those nerves, it helps us with our focus. It helps us to focus better. It allows us to focus on our emotional regulation. Okay. We want to be happy. We do not want to be depressed. We need to find ways that we can go about working smarter, And it's just not about working less, y'all. We're talking about working smarter. Because I know some people who work less still don't get enough done and still are burned out because it's the way that they just do things. We need to be working smarter where you're kind of like protecting that well-being part though. How should I work? You're safeguarding yourself. You're safeguarding yourself. You're making sure that you are protecting yourself in a sense because when we protect our brain appropriately, we have a tendency to work smarter. Almost like saying, I am smarter. When I focus properly, I become more intellectual. That's where the intellectual wellness comes in. So, to be honest with y'all, all of the wellnesses kind of connect together. But I'm just talking about like the science of occupational wellness. I'm talking about what wellness is about. Okay. So, when we think of wellness and we think of occupational wellness, we never want to put ourselves in a place where we do not have harmony. All right, so let me back up just a touch. We have to have boundaries. So if you remember, I did tell you that I did have someone state, "Hey, I was wondering if you could help me with XYZ." And I actually said no. Y'all have to understand, I don't like saying no. I don't know what it is. I feel like if I say no, I'm not helping someone. But to be honest with you, I said, if I'm going to preach it, if I'm going to not preach it per se, well, I kind of do. But if I'm going to say something, then I need to mean it. Okay. And so I was like, I am promoting something right now. I am also an educator, I'm an instructor, and I work a regular job on top of this. So with my promotion with my business, I needed to make sure I created a structure of a break. Now, one thing that I am learning in this process is that jobs are now asking you to take extra courses so that you can be up to date with various standards and various policies and to stay abreast with your certification. So you have to put that in there as well. So you might as well just say, if you're in the medical field or education field, you are always taking a course, right? At some point. So you have to consider your structural breaks. Your structural breaks are not just we're talking about day to day, but we're also talking about week to week or month to month in order to make sure you're meeting that deadline of whatever that particular course is that you need to have to maintain your certificate. But you also have to consider the breaks that you have throughout the day, such as a brain break. One thing I thought was really cool, and it was really big for a long period of time, it comes and goes, just like anything in education. Um, Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a little piece of a study. Comes from the University of Calgary. They say boundaries aren't just good practice; they rewire your brain to become more resilient. And do you remember where we used to have those videos that we would give to the kids, and we would do brain breaks? They were really big on brain breaks where the kid got up, they had this little video, they were doing this little exercise. I'm curious to know how many, if you are remembering this, go ahead and drop it in the comments and say, "Oh, I remember." Okay. You would have those breaks. It's a structure break. It allows us to have that performance with our brain, that cognitive performance, and it allows us to give our brain that break from being fatigued. It allows us to prevent, to stop that fatigue part of where we are. And then you find when you do give yourself those breaks, you allow yourself to locate, to acquire, to feel. We're talking about emotions right now, that job satisfaction. You know, I was with someone and they said, "Well, you have passion projects." There are passion, what may be your passion project may be what you need to have in order to survive. Okay. So we have to be careful when we say it's a passion project because that person's job satisfaction may be something that he or she is trying to attain because it may be a stepping stone for them. So we need to know when we need to step back or when we need to recharge when we look at our job satisfaction. So if you know that you're trying to excel and do something, know when to step back, and know when to recharge in order to make it to the next level. So I just wanted to kind of give you just that little tiny hint about that. All right. I think that's super important. Excuse me. So we have a 90-minute rule. I'm going to give you some tools. I love giving tools out. So I have 4 tools I'm going to give you guys. All right. So this is what I have for you. We have a 90-minute rule tool, a power of saying no. Did I not just share that with you guys? Okay. The meaningful meeting, and the workplace gratitude practices. Now, I said workplace gratitude, but you know what? I may switch it just a touch. We're just going to say gratitude practices. And the reason I say that is because when you start your day off with gratitude, okay, I just gave it away. We're going to start with that one, okay? When you start your day off with gratitude, find 5 things to be grateful for when you first wake up, okay? That's what I'm going to tell you. Find 5 things that you're grateful for when you wake up. And I'm not talking about that you've gotten out the bed, you've already brushed your teeth, put your clothes on, and are about to sit down and eat your breakfast. I'm talking about when you first wake up. When you land those feet on the ground. Say 5 things. We're not asking you to think hard. We're talking about just spit them out. 5 things that you're really grateful for. Right there. It improves and strengthens who you are. Okay? Now, when you're grateful and you have those gratitude practices, it will overflow and become an occupational practice or an occupational form of wellness. I hope I'm making sense. All right. I love my examples. You got to get my example. One day I'll show you. But at this present moment, I was a part of something called a gratitude journey. There are plenty of gratitude journeys out there. There's plenty of gratitude challenges that are out there. But this journey was like no other journey. We connected every day for practically an entire year. I think we only missed 3 days out of it. So it was close to 362 days. We met. We were determined to have gratitude. And I'm telling you, the turnaround for that gratitude project that we did, the challenge of a year. We didn't even know it was going to be a year. I don't think the person who did it thought it was going to be a year. They just listened to their spiritual well-being, and it's like, you know what, we're going to do this. It will allow you to be clairvoyant as to what you do. So let me back this up a little bit more. So I told you I have some other practical tools, and I'm going to show you how it all connects. When I say the 90-minute rule, where you just literally work for 90 minutes, high focus, you burst it out, you just boom, 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 boom. Okay? Then you take that break. Not joking. It reminds you of if you're at a high school level and you have a 4x4 schedule and you work with the kids for a 90-minute break, a 90-minute time frame. And when the kids leave, you almost have that woosah moment where you just relax. That's fine. Because that's where you have those grateful moments that you made it through the 90 minutes. Not saying the class was bad, but everybody needs a break. Okay, so I'm going to go one step further. I told you that we have to stop overcommitting ourselves. So when we know that we need to say no, then say no. One thing I did earlier this year is I created a strategic plan, and it wasn't just for my business. It was a strategic plan looking at the holistic view. I wanted to look at me. I don't know if you've seen my t-shirt, but I also have one that says, my curriculum is self-priority or something of that nature. I have one that says that. I have different sayings. I came up with them and I just was like, oh, I love these. So when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, I have to make myself a priority. Your priority has to be within your own strategic plan in order to make sure that you're doing. School systems have strategic plans. And some of the strategic plans have a wellness part in them. And within that, they teach you about saying no, or they teach you about carving out time for yourself. So it's like stopping the overcommitment. And then I did mention the mindful meetings, which is a practice that people do. They cut out unnecessary meetings and focus on efficiency. A little hard to do in elementary school. Little hard, it's very hard to do at a high school. It's very hard to do in healthcare. If you're in a healthcare educator, it's hard to do because, as you know, healthcare does not stop. It continues, especially if you're at the hospital. So I guess what I would say is, if you're not in control of the meetings, it's kind of hard to cut them out. So if you are the leader and you have those meetings, find out which meetings are necessary. What can be done online? What can be done in the email? Because most of us are having to come back to work. So find a way so that you do not burn out who you have at that moment. So I'm just going to say, out of all of them, if I had a fave, I would say the wellness practice, the wellness and the gratitude practice, the practice of just saying, oh, I appreciate what has occurred right now or even had happened or what I'm doing. You just appreciate it with your whole heart. All right. So got to get to the next one. Don't want to leave it out. All right. Here we go. Let's just say that you are the leader. Okay. And this is an opportunity where you can create your own boundary settings. All right. Where you can help yourself and ensure that you are meeting your needs appropriately. Okay. And let's say you know someone who is a leader and they want to thrive in their leadership, but they have to improve. So, what should they do? You've got to create a culture wherever you are, if you're a leader, to allow that person to know that they are appreciated, not just for their intellectual ability, but you appreciate everything about them. That's very difficult because you have things you have to get done. And I understand that. Just like a curriculum for a teacher, he or she has to get that done. But it's the culture that creates that. And yes, we have higher ups who ask us to get certain things done. But I guess what I would say to you is, if you're a leader, consider, if you feel rushed, then your culture probably feels rushed and inundated as well. That's all I'm going to leave it with. So my only step for you is to create a personal occupational wellness goal. Because your goal right now is to reclaim your time, to use appropriate strategies or tools so that you could be sustainable in your career. We've got to make some money. So if you're going to make it, try to find a way to make that work-life harmony so that you prevent the burnout. Increase maybe your time in the gym, be grateful, journal, whatever it can be. Make sure that you are not creating that burnout. Remember, I told you, burnout shows that if you have prolonged stress, it reduces your cognitive function and decision-making abilities, and you don't want that. And I know women have a tendency to do a lot. So that's the reason why I really and truly would like to bring this to my women. We're not super women. We are women. And sometimes we got to say, whoop, we got to stop. It gives us a chance when we create those boundaries so that our brain can become more resilient and our cognitive performance is at its best, so that we do not create that mental fatigue. I know I've given a lot. I just want to say thank you so much. Hopefully this particular episode, where I call it the art of occupational wellness, just to give you a little hint, where I want you to thrive in your leadership without any form of burnout. I really, really do. I want you to feel your best, your ultimate best. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cold Press Conversations. If you love this episode as much as I did, I need you to head on over and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is Dr. Jewel signing off to health and cognitive happiness.